Washington State just legalized drugs and it will destroy Seattle. Welcome to the Jason Rantz Show, presented by None Better Tax Resolution. Washington Democrats refuse to endorse jail time for repeat drug offenders who refuse treatment and keep breaking the law. So they legalize drugs statewide, giving cities and counties power to craft their own laws. But giving this responsibility to criminalize drugs to the far left Seattle lawmakers, that means the end of the city as we know it. It'll be death by 1,000 fentanyl pills. With total control of the House and the Senate, Democrats needed to provide a permanent fix to the Supreme Court's Blake decision. Back in 2021, the left-wing justices invalidated our felony drug possession law. They argued it's not constitutional to assume someone in possession of an illicit substance knew that they were in possession. It was a laughably transparent way to decriminalize drugs. Rather than add the word knowingly to the law, Democrats opted to decriminalize for the last 2 years as it came up with a permanent fix. But decriminalizing was effectively legalizing. And the result of this experiment has been an abject failure, resulting in unprecedented fatal overdose deaths driven primarily by fentanyl. King County in Seattle, they're already on pace to exceed last year's record high, with over 100 fatal overdoses a month so far this year. That's called a failure, folks. Republicans essentially wanted a combination of drug diversion programs and a gross misdemeanor charge for addicts who continue to break the law. You see, without the threat of jail time, an addict has little incentive to go into treatment. Most Democrats wanted this too, but the large progressive faction of the party, they didn't want any criminalizing at all.
While criminal penalties are billed as a benign tool to encourage treatment, communities of color have countless stories and years of sentences that say otherwise. Harsh penalties don't dissuade drug usage, but they do have unintended consequences like barring people from housing and services. Please don't double down on the mistakes of the past and the war on drugs.
Representative Street would rather an addict die on a sidewalk than sober up in a jail. This Democrat Party is full of lawmakers actively seeking to liberate as many prisoners as possible. They believe the criminal justice system is racist and that everyone in it is a victim of white supremacy. So in the end, Democrats refuse to offer jail time for repeat offenders who refuse treatment. They sandbag negotiations, and they sandbag their own compromise bill, which had the votes but included gross misdemeanor as punishment for drug crimes. That bill would have passed, but it wasn't extreme enough for some Democrats. Now this means the cities and counties can craft their own policy. Now, most cities, I think, are better off in this scenario than letting fringe Seattle Democrats decide for them. But that's the problem for Seattle. If you think things are bad right now, just wait for a Seattle where its own far-left leaders craft drug policy. Seattle always tries to be the most extreme, especially around drugs. They rush to establish heroin injection sites despite them being illegal. They fully embrace a harm reduction model that merely hands out drug paraphernalia for addicts to use to kill themselves. Without anyone to rein them in, what do you think they're going to allow next? The city is already dealing with a pronounced and deadly drug crisis. Walk around downtown Seattle. Go to any homeless encampment. You will see what their permissive policies around drugs have created. This reality is that they still have some leash from the state legislature, just a little bit of control. Without that leash, and with the makeup of this current council, they could bring the city to a drug crisis no one has ever seen before or could imagine. Jason Rantz here with Greg Nunn, your local tax expert and advocate. Greg, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Jason, great to be with you again and talk about these tax issues.
Okay, so why should anyone in trouble with the IRS contact you immediately?
The sooner the better, because it's so much easier to deal with an IRS situation at the beginning than when you're getting toward the end and they're getting very aggressive. And at the same time, it takes that pressure off of you sooner and gives you that peace of mind that, hey, no more fear of going to the mailbox because I'm here helping you.
So by connecting with you, can you assure people that they won't have the IRS on their doorstep or calling them nonstop?
When you have representation, you definitely do not want to talk to the IRS ever, and you don't have to. you are protected by statute, by law, that when you have representation, they have to deal with your representative. And I am acting in your best interest when I'm dealing with the IRS. And I tell you, you don't want to talk to them, it'll just stress you out.
Greg, thank you so much. That was really, really helpful.
Hey, it's my pleasure, and I just really hope that what I've said helps some people that are in tax difficulty.
If you're having trouble with the IRS, then call Greg Nunn. Greg might be able to negotiate a settlement for up to 85% off the original amount owed, including penalties and interest. Call Greg Nunn today. Did you like this video? We have a whole lot more over at KTTH.com.